Hi.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have a few minutes with you, dear Suyen. You are our certification alumni and have become a dear friend of mine. And I would love to begin this interview by you maybe just introducing yourself to whoever is listening and speaking briefly about how and from when we know each other.
Sure. So I am Suyan. I am a holistic therapist and a sex therapist. I met you at the beginning of COVID without having to really name the thing that none of us wants to name. That's when I met you. I met you initially as a life coach when I was going through my own healing journey. And you came highly recommended. And I remember calling you and not getting you. And I was like, that's it. That's a sign. I'm not doing this. Wasn't meant to meet her. And then I think it was like 2 to 3 days later, you called. You had been traveling and you called back. And I was like, okay, so I guess it wasn't a sign. And then the rest is history. We have been in each other's lives since.
Yes, for 6 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Wild.
yeah. I didn't even think about the number. Yes.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. Well, this call specifically is about the teacher certification, the feminine embodiment teacher certification that we did together. And I would love if you could describe where you were professionally before taking on that journey and after graduating from it.
Okay. So prior to the feminine embodiment course, not I think, I absolutely know I came into my practice from I want to make a statement and I don't know if it's a fair statement. I'm going to make it anyway and I'm going to give a disclaimer. I want to think that I came into the course like most of us who have done any sort of psychotherapy work have come in through a very uh cognitive space where a lot of what we have learned is from the top down. And I absolutely shamelessly, although there is a little bit of shame attached to it, will say that I didn't have any sort of knowledge or education around merging the two. It was what happens lives up here in our heads. And I wasn't able to connect the dots at the time as to how that shows up in our bodies, or even as to how it shows up in our bodies before it even gets has a chance to sink into our minds. And through your courses and through just working with you in general, that was a path that became almost the only path, because
Mm.
it's almost like one of those things, once you know, you can't unknow. Once you start down that path, you can't go back. Once you've now found yourself having a conversation with your body, I can absolutely say it's extremely difficult to go back. It's like you've opened the door and there is no shutting it. And I think that was only possible through your teaching of always merging mind and body, of always, but definitely with more emphasis on our bodies and the wisdom that sits there and how you can tap into that, because a lot of us don't have any relationship with our bodies. A lot of us don't know how to talk to our bodies, how to listen to our bodies. And through your course, it became the only way forward for me, but
Mm.
also for my clients. And I find myself quite often saying now more than ever before, so where do you feel that, and where is that in your body, and getting them to notice how their bodies react when they're having certain experiences, so you don't have to wait for it to sink in cognitively before you can notice, because now you can pick up on the cues that the body is giving long before.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for treating and entering into this description gently, because I felt a little bit of, okay, how do I name
There
this
was that.
without any judgment to the traditional, talk therapy world or to the traditional personal development world that has definitely in the past been mainly shaped by the cognitive intellectual understanding and experiences. And I so appreciate this deep care with which you approach that, because I felt it. And I think a lot of women, a lot of female therapists and practitioners will actually relate with that, because we are coming from a context and from schools and universities that have predominantly focused all of the research and all of the learnings on the incredible universe of the mind. And I would say just in the last 10 years or so, there has been this incredible importance of connecting other bodies that exist within us beyond the talking body, beyond the intellectual body. And the importance of also acknowledging and giving them space and allowing all the experiences that we hold within our body to find a safe outlet and a safe way to be expressed and to be listened to. So I want to just appreciate how you beautifully navigated that.
Thank you.
And what would you say is different in the way that you work and in the space that you hold for your clients now?
So I think prior, you do tend to go by what you've been taught. And so a lot of it is on trying to diagnose. And yes, there is understanding. And maybe I can speak from it from a personal experience, because I think for me, the way that I've approached it, and I tend to anything that before I take it and put it out into the world, I always try it on first. And so for me, it went from I am very, very good at living in my head. I am very good at understanding everything that I have been through and how I've been impacted. But then there is that road, then you hit a wall because now you can't go past that, right? Because the connection to, okay, so how do I notice where when I'm tense? For the longest while, I did not notice how tense I was in my body. And I remember going on a long drive, and it was at night. And so I wasn't driving. And so there's all this stuff that comes up in your head about what can go wrong. And I remember sitting in the front seat and realizing that my shoulders were like this. And it was the first time that I had recognized how tense I was. And I remember sitting and thinking, breathe. And like it was an intentional decision to breathe. And I don't want to say force, but it was, how do I get my shoulders to drop? And so
Yeah.
that for me was, it was a moment of pivot because I hadn't noticed that before. And in noticing that for myself, and then really practicing in myself, anytime I was in session, I would notice that I would lean forward and my shoulders would go up. I would get so into it, whatever was happening, but I wasn't necessarily mirroring calmness in the space. And so
Mm.
for me, it meant having to intentionally notice that I was doing this, and then doing this and this. And then I
Yeah.
began to, once I was able to understand how that helped my body relax into this space. And then I saw how that then happened between me and another. Because now the
Yeah.
space is calm and the other person, regardless of what they're talking through, because there is one person that is holding that space of regulation in the space,
Yeah.
they're able to show up like that. And so for me, after that, it was easier for me to go, okay, so what are you noticing in your body? Let's start there, where I'm still working on implementing it more, because a lot of people, it's not something that a lot of us know. So I'm still trying to figure out how to walk it in and how do you do it with different clients. But the clients that I have tried it with that have been open to it have all come back and said, I'm able to notice. And when I take it home and I try it and I'm going through a thing, when I'm not in your office, how that is
Yeah.
able to have a lasting impact. And so I
Yeah.
think that's how it has definitely shifted how I show up in the room. And I think that has informed the relationships that I have with my clients in the room.
Beautiful. I'm hearing you have allowed yourself to really sharpen your own capacity to tune into your body, to broaden that sense of interoceptivity, and then become the embodied co-regulating presence for those in that space. And that shifts completely the experience for both ourselves as practitioners and our clients. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit and go down the memory lane of your actual experience as a student in the program.
Okay.
I would love for you to describe this, for me, incredibly important mix of structure and practice. So, anything that feels important to name around that for you.
Well, if I were to compare you, and I think everything we do, we always compare it to other experiences we've had. So if I were to compare the experiences I've had with your course to other courses that I've taken, again, I find there is, so specifically since I've started down a more somatic journey, a lot of the
Yeah.
courses I have taken have also started to bridge mind and body. However, the difference is that there is still a lot of information that you're given, which I love. I am a
Mhm.
nerd at heart. And so I love all the reading material. But I think what has suffered from the others, or what has been missing, is the felt sense. How do you take that information and translate it? Because I found that in other courses, I feel like, okay, so I've read this. Okay, so now one practice session or two practice sessions isn't enough for me to now go out into the world and take this and implement it in a room, because you are going through all the feelings of, am I doing this right? Right. But
Of
in
course.
your course, there is a perfect balance of information and practice. And so with everything, you get a felt sense of what you're about. If I'm going to ask a client to do this, if I'm going to take them down this journey, yes, our experiences are going to be very different, but I have some sort of knowledge that I can tap into so I can help walk you into it. Because whenever
Mhm.
you're bringing somebody into something that they've never experienced before, there is hesitation, understandably. And so when you're able to sit down and go, okay, so yes, our experiences are going to be different, but this is what I experienced in it. It helps soften them into it. I like how with every module, there is and I think it follows, and I don't know if this is an art that's forming in my head, and I don't know if it's an intentional art that you have in your practices or not, but it always feels like there is a coming home to self in the space. Then there is a, okay, so now we're going to talk through this information. And then there is a bridging of that information to you specifically, right? So now you're able to have it sort of meet you where you're at. And then the practice, but then the practice not just of you leading us into practice, but also us holding that space so that at the end of it you feel like you are a teacher at the end of it, or a facilitator, because you've done it multiple times with each module in different spaces. I also like that in it, there's also a building of community, so that we don't have to just rely on you and that class that we have to practice. We now, among ourselves, can figure out how do we continue to practice, which is what I've done, which is what helps strengthen it throughout. So when the time comes for you to do it, there is nervousness, but it's not as bad because you've been practicing it, but you also feel more connected to all the people in the class because we've all been interacting with each other throughout. And I've never had
Mhm.
that experience in any of the other courses that I've taken.
Thank you. That really warms my heart. Full confession, I was a little bit tensed up when you said I'm gonna compare your course with the other. I'm like, okay. And I'm so grateful that you name this importance to teach embodiment differently. Because as a student myself, I have been a student of embodiment for over 10 years and will continue to remain a student for the rest of my life. I see time and time again that we are trying to teach embodiment through theory, through more information,
Yes.
and it just doesn't make sense because unless we can translate the information into an actual embodied experience, the body will not remember it. It will not be embodied.
Yes.
And so, in creating this program, that was like the crucial thing, always at the top of my intention. Like, how can I bridge this information and bring it into their bodies enough times so that when you go out into the world, you are serving and holding space for you from your embodied intelligence, from your remembrance. And it's really special to hear that that remains like the main differentiating factor
Yes.
because it was so important to me. And then thank you also for mentioning the importance of community. There's so much that I could say about that. It's especially for spaces in which women come together. That sense of community and connection and deep witnessing helps our nervous system relax. And it helps us receive and learn in such a safe way. And so again, thank you for articulating that beautifully because I do think it's an important piece of this certification program that makes it unique.
It does. It definitely does. And that was the whole point in the comparison, because from the moment I'm going to say that my somatic journey started with with you, right? I didn't have that introduction to my body in the way that you did prior to me meeting you. And because I am a nerd and I am always wanting to learn, I do way too many courses. And so, and so it's from that space that I can sit and say, I have gained a lot of knowledge, but then you pause because now you have all this information. And I'm like, okay, so how do I translate this in a room? How do I get it to live inside of me so that I can now share it with others? And it feels scary when you don't have any sort of felt sense in terms of, okay, so you're never going to be fully prepared, and that's the truth of this. But being able to practice it, being able to feel what it's like to go through certain things, to have the opening, to have the emotional release, you're able to prep people differently. And most courses don't offer that in the way that yours does. And again, yes, absolutely the community, because when you go in, and I know it's not possible for all courses, but when you go into a course and we're studying the same thing, you want to be able to have people that you can bounce things off of. And yours, I like that it has been, maybe this is me making an assumption, intentionally more intimate circles,
Yeah.
so that we don't get lost in the numbers. And as a
Yeah.
result, it makes it easier for you to reach across the room to pick somebody that you can connect with, because you're not staring into the vast ocean of 100 people, right? And there's no connection. That space, as much as we're all on the same journey, doesn't feel as connected as the spaces that you have held. And the ways that you've allowed for all of us to come in, and you don't ever push us, or you just name it like, this is a space and feel free, which again gives us the choice to decide how we want to develop that space and how we want to make it be useful to us. And I think that definitely is another thing that just naming it now I've never experienced before.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, the assumption that you made is absolutely correct. It was an intentional choice to keep the cohorts small. So we limit the number from 8 to 12 participants, because that is the size of a group that allows for that level of depth and intimacy that you beautifully mentioned. So thank you. Thank you so much. Last question. Imagine there is another Suyen sitting somewhere that's a beautiful nerd, learning so much about somatic and embodiment, and really pulled to step into this world, but kind of overwhelmed with the amount of programs that are currently available. What would you say to her about why she should join this program specifically?
Oh dear, I hope this doesn't sound too corny, but I think
Your pretext.
I think of the spaces that you hold, and those are classes and courses, but I think of those spaces as gifts to myself. And so for anybody that was trying to figure it out, I think this is a path that allows you to take learning on in a different way. It allows you to feel confident enough, because the other Suyan that would be out there would also probably be really, really shy. And so this helps you walk the information in internally, so that, and at least for me, what it has done is it's allowed it to sit within me first. Then it allows you to practice in a safe space, because everybody in the room is there to witness you and to notice everything that makes you you, things that you don't even notice. And so that helps open you up, because you don't get that in a space that is too large. And it's not because they might not want to, it's just it's not possible, right? And so because your space is smaller and more intimate, it allows for you to feel seen, and it allows for you to begin to notice parts of you that you potentially have never noticed before. It allows those parts to begin to like tiptoe their way out, because if you're shy, you're not coming out loud and proud. You're going to tiptoe your way out. And so it allows for that. It allows for you to begin to unfurl in this way, so that you're coming out of this shy cocoon that you've been in, and really beginning to embody the teacher within. And that's whether or not you actually become a teacher, it still allows you to have a felt sense of what is possible. And that can be carried into a space with a client or a space with a friend or a space that you just hold. And so for any other student that might be wondering why they should, I think the gift is this is a gift to self. It is a gift to allow you to know you differently, to feel you differently, to find community. I found so many beautiful sisters and we're so far apart, which makes it beautiful because they're people that you now know globally. And it allows you to really begin to see yourself through others' eyes in a way that you potentially never.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope she heard us.
I hope so
I
too.
hope she heard you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for all the beautiful work that you are already doing. I want to give a shout out to your House of Her, an incredible program that has been birthed throughout this journey. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful for the healing that you're rippling out into the world, in the entire Caribbean. Know of this incredible human that is talking with me. Please check her work out. I'll put the links below this conversation. She's amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.